Miss Lauren here again, and we're going to get some mixed media goodness going on in this page. So I'm just going to start with the packaging technique, using the eyedropper to drop some artist ink on there. I was going to say drop some eyedropper on there. So drop some artist ink onto the plastic and add a bit of water, and I'm just going to spread it onto my page with the normal packaging technique. Then I'm going to wipe a little bit off and use some of the little splatters that are on the plastic to add some little dots and splatters to the edges of the mixed media here. So you can see I've got these lovely little specks, and it just adds a little bit of interest to the big blob of colour that is going on. So just wiping that up and then going to move to the next part of my mixed media background. So it becomes a pretty heavy mixed media background in terms of what's going on, but also have a bit of goodness in terms of layering and some embellishments. So as you've seen, I just sprayed some water into my hand and flicked it onto the colour, waited a few moments and then picked it up with the paper towel, and that just leaves a bleach kind of look. Because it's a water-based colour, the artist ink is, then you can do that technique and pick up some of the colour. Unfortunately, that all gets covered over. But at this stage, I didn't know what I was doing other than I wanted a vertical with a horizontal photo so that the embellishments were horizontal with a little bit of vertical to it, but the mixed media mostly was just vertical. So I'm using the Punchinella again, and if you've seen my previous video, that I used that as a stencil and I loved it so much. I just put the texture paste through, and now I'm just going to use it as a drawing stencil. So using my Faber-Castell Pitt pen, I'm just adding some black hexagons, and if you know me, I did not wait for my texture paste to dry, so I'm being careful, but here I need to wipe my pen because I wasn't as careful as can be, which is why you should always wait for things to dry. So don't follow my example, follow what I say. Unless you are happy to draw on your hand and get messy just like I do and run that risk. So just adding a bit of the black pop of colour everywhere, knowing that my photo is going to go in the middle there, so I don't need to bother with adding any of it to the middle. So if you know, does that make sense before? Like a cross, like when I want the vertical line of the mixed media with a bit of a cross horizontal, so it makes a plus sign to the side there. I'm just adding some ink splatters. Oh, I just kicked my heel. And I'm just using the eyedropper full of colour, and I'm just moving my hand towards the paper, and as I move my hand towards the paper, I'm pushing the colour out so that it splatters onto the paper. So the quicker you do that, the higher you do that from, obviously the colour goes everywhere in different splatter formations and whatnot. So it's really quite fun. Even if you just have a play with that, I think you'll be very delighted. So I'm just going to work on my paper layers now while that has a little moment. I'm just cutting that out from the cut apart sheet. I knew that I wasn't going to use those two cut aparts, but I like the blue on the background, especially because it has hexagons, so it goes with the Punchinella stencil that I used. I'm just working out, I've got these two photos of my son who was like just mucking around because he's like, what, another photo? So he got right up in the camera lens and pretended to be cranky. So just trying to work out, I pulled a couple of pieces from my stash, that blue paper bag, the writing paper from a book, and then there's that padded textured specialty paper. So I add this writing book paper. So it's always nice if you, especially this time of the year coming up, that when your children start to finish school, they bring home all their school books and you go through and what I like to do is pull out a few of the items that I want to keep into my albums, and then I toss the rest of them. I ask them if they want anything, obviously. Also what I do is if there's any blank paper, if there's any grid paper, any writing paper, any even blank paper, I pull it out and put it in my textured shelf on my Kallax. So I was trying to work out what I wanted, but it wasn't working in my head by doing the layers off the page because relies on the mixed media background. I brought that 12 by 12 piece of paper back in, and I'm just going to build some layers here. So starting with that piece that I brought from the cut apart sheet, made it into a fishtail banner, and I'm just going to add some strips to the top there, adding my photo in the middle to see how it's going, and then adding another strip of colour. So let me know if you have gotten messy with these artist inks this month. I've really enjoyed not only the way you can use them and there's multiple ways you can use them, but also the colours of them. So they go so well with boy layouts, but they go so well with the girl layouts if you are working on those kind of things, and also because they fit so well with the Field Notes Vicky Boudin collection that features heavily in the October kits for Kitaholics. They are just amazing. So I'm just working on these resin arrow chevron pieces. So I wanted to add them as a design that goes with the vertical look of the paper and the mixed media that's going on in the background. And I'm just laying them there to see how I go. This is one of those layouts where I put things out and I fiddle and I muck around, and I changed it a little bit, but then it just comes back to this start design. So I should have just started gluing when I started. Sometimes it's just really frustrating when that happens, but other times it's part of the process. You just got to go and do what you need to do. So using the other cut apart, because it had some lovely black and white stripe on the back, and that's going to give another bold colour to it, and that is adding so that it is tying in with the black hexagons that I drew. Tell your brother, please. Sorry, guys. So just using some ephemera here to layer in the background. There's a little piece that had some grid lines on it and a banner tail. And then I looked at the chipboard pieces, and this is where it all came together. So I'm using that as a title, but then I have a fiddle with this one. It doesn't really work, even though I know that it could work if I brought back those lengths of paper, the blue ones, the strips that were vertical, but I forgot about it by the time I added them back in. When I got to this page, I realised there's more that were black and white and lovely words that go with it. And here's where I realised I can make a design with the words and the papers going like in a horizontal and vertical around the photo. So here's where it's all going to come together, and I'm going to commit to it, and I'm going to glue it down, and we're going to work on some of the other chipboard words that we can add to it. So pull this up here, and you can see that I was like, yes, vertical and horizontal for the win. Putting that on there. These chipboard, it's like a packet of thickers in size, but they're all chipboard words, and they've got all different designs and different ways of presenting the words so that they can go on your layouts, and they're just fun and fresh. But also, if you, like I put a pile on my layout, but they're all so different, but they all go together so well. So it's so very ideal of Vicky to have designed them like that, and hopefully we get more things like that, because they are very awesome addition to our scrapbooking kits, but also to our stash if we're not buying it via a kit. So just working on if there was any ephemera pieces. You know, I like to layer with labels, so trying to work out if there was any blue and black ones that I wanted to layer. Just pulling them out, and put one down here, and I thought to tie it in I needed a splatter. So here we go with the eyedropper again, and just dabbing that up so that the colour is not so bright. I'll talk to you in a moment, okay? I'm going to stick that down, stick all this down. I'll come back here and that's all stuck down. Just use my wet glue to stick it down, because it is on mixed media, even though it's not hugely bumpy or textured mixed media. It still was easier to put some wet glue on it, make sure it sticks, but also so that I could maneuver anything if I needed to move it in the first few moments. That face is just hilarious. It's not the best photo, but it tells you, it tells you a lot of the story that's going on. In fact, here comes the son who is being photographed in the photo. Uh-oh, busted. So I'm just sticking it all down, committing to it. I'm going to add the label down here, and I'm going to cut off part of it. And I'm going to add this dotted, not this dotted, sorry, this, it's not a straight edge circle. So it goes on there and it fits well with the splatters. So I was going to put another strip chipboard piece, but I thought that one, when I seen it, worked really well with the ink splatter background. So it goes on and it says makes me smile, so that was a perfect addition to the bottom. So I will journal on that, and I'm going to add some puffy stickers here, some little arrows, and some of the puffy little dots. They're like enamel dots, but they're puffy stickers, so they're really cool. So I put in on this chipboard one as well, and you can see I've put an arrow up the top there above the word today, and just playing with these love hearts and dots from the puffy stickers, just putting them in a couple of places, not overdoing it, just in the bottom there, up the top with the arrows and towards that be bold. And here I'm adding those chevron arrows before I forget that I pulled them out and wanted to add them. So they're nice. I really like when we get all the resin pieces or the wood veneer from Corbett Creations, because they always uniquely made to go with the kit, so the colours match, if they're icons or the words, they all really match. So thought we'd look at this puffy sticker sheet and see what I could put on it. I do go with this lovely little smile, and that goes in that little corner there and makes it not so much of a straight edge, stand in your face when you look at it kind of a section of the layout. So that was nice. And then I decided to add some more arrows to go with the puffy hearts. So add that one at the top and then this big one down the bottom, and they've designed it so that it's not straight. So I fiddle with it and muck around to get it straight. I did want it straight just because the other elements are straight. So you can see fiddling around, sorry. And then going to add some arrows above that, be a little crazy. So hopefully this is a layout that's, fun and encouraging and inspiring to get out there and create. These kits are just so amazing to start with. It's really hard to get started some months. Well, actually most months. They're very hard to go, okay, this is all the awesome goodies we've got. How on earth can I make a layout from it that is so deserving of these goodies, but also is really lovely and I want to share with you. So sometimes I get in my head a little bit at the beginning and then have to talk myself down and go, okay, what do I feel like creating? And then just go from there. So the good thing, if you ever are stuck and you've got this box of goodies from your kit and you're just overthinking it and, you're like, oh, I've only got a little bit of time. What can I do? Just either, scrap lift or use a sketch or something. We always have a monthly challenge, but also just breathe and just create from your heart, like make it just flow, just start. Sometimes I just add a colour to the page or I pull out one item and just start that way. So sorry, while I was rambling about things you probably already know, I added some black splatters using a black mist from my stash. I used ink splatters and then used an eyedropper from my stash and dropped them on like the blue ones, added a bit more blue. I'm just using my pen to journal and to outline the strips, and we're going to call it a day. I'll see you next time. Bye.